actually,
Okay.
for this
I
one.
don't have an agenda in front of me. so-
No, there is
Yeah,
none.
there's one.
Oh, there is.
one.
I have
Put it in front of me, I don't know why they gave it to me, Mark.
You're in charge.
No.
Okay, well, I guess it's noon, so we'll start with the assembly work session with the school, hospital, and community services. And schools are number one on the list, so I will turn it over to the finance director, Jody Tell, and then she could go from there. Or Rob Thomas is in the school.
Whatever you want.
Whatever works. But just so people know, if my phone buzzes, I've got to get up and leave.
Gotcha.
So I don't know.
So is this on radio or just recording?
Just
or?
being
Just recorded.
Okay, just wasn't sure what,
And before
I didn't see anybody sitting over there.
before we start, maybe I should just say for clarification purposes that the assembly does not approve the school's budget or the hospital's budget. The assembly does approve the allocation that goes to the school, but that's it.
Yeah.
And, go ahead.
The ones who approve our budget are the Department of Education. They're the big kahuna in our world. Well, in the last 2 or 3 years we've come before the city, now the borough. We had actually a budget we could lay out for you. The legislature had so many funding related and school process related bills that just got taken care of at the very end of things that and we had a family emergency in our department, so we don't have a budget to give you, but we are able to tell you that what we're looking toward is a status quo program, a status quo budget, no major reductions, no major additions. The cost increases we're anticipating are the standard salary schedule negotiated agreement increases I'm sure you're familiar with from your world. Health insurance increases, we're told originally 15% and it's coming in now at 6%, which is a blessing.
Oh, nice.
So we're very happy about that. And then obviously the fuel and utilities and all those things, you know, we're going to ask you what number you're using. We used 5% last year. We're not sure. We have several projects going on in the district, a couple of good construction ones. We're doing a lot of updating and upgrading. We've been very careful and not hired a lot of new staff. And so in terms of the ratio of personnel to funding and all that stuff, we're one of the more efficient districts in the state. We constantly get asked, how do you do it? And I say it's because you have great people working here when we go to our meetings. So the district is anticipating the same request this year as the past 6 or 7 years, with no increase, and just grateful for the support that the borough does give to the schools. I think you have a great school system with wonderful people, and so we're just trying to hold our costs in line at the same time because we know the pressure's on you. So happy to answer any. We gave you some of our budget consideration things there. Our numbers are up and down, but they've stabilized compared to where they used to be. We're at 458 this year. We expect 442 next year. But now if you hire one of these people, we get 3 or 4 kids out of that deal. That'd be great.
We're working on it.
So we'll try to answer any questions. Again, we are writing grants like crazy, and we're trying to find other ways to add to the overall value of the program without impacting the borough.
And I'm gonna just jump in real
Yeah,
quick
fire
and
away.
say, Rob quoted 458 as our current enrollment. Well, what we have to send to the state in the fall through our OASIS report is actually 451. So we typically have more students in the school on any given day than 451, but we are required to do a 20-day count.
Yeah.
We have to see the whites of their eyes, so we get funding for 451. We might actually have 459 in there, but we only get funding for 451.
So, a lot of the numbers that Karen put together, there you go. You can sort of see what we're looking at. That's the other piece. We are in the middle of classified negotiations. Give you an update on that. And it's all public kind of stuff. Made an offer of 1%, 1.5, 1.5, which we thought was very reasonable. For a variety of reasons, that was rejected, and we're not meeting again until June. The district is not in a position at this point in time to modify that. We're trying to hold the line and be responsible, so just so you know where we are on that.
So those are increases for the next 3 years.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yes, 1% this coming year, 1.5, 1.5. Yes, we realize that the whole nation's in financial difficulty, and that's what we're trying to say, so.
Well, and what they were asking for was more significant than that.
Well, they had some other, they wanted more vacation. There's a proposal to, for 9-month employees, to have equity with all employees, to have prorated vacation time as a 12-month employee does. And what that would do, we figured it out, it would give a 9-month employee 15 days of vacation time, which they would be taken during the school year, which is about 3 weeks. Combine that with the 5 days of personal leave, and now you lost a person for 4 weeks, and it's just not what you do in school districts.
That's at the step where they would get 30
Yeah,
vacation
that's
days
right there.
prorated.
But
Yeah.
So
you just don't do that in school districts. It's,
we struggle already with absences in the school district and finding people to fill them.
So,
depending on the
Yeah.
number of in the day. If it's 1 or 2 a day, we're fine. When it gets up to 4, then we begin to struggle. So can we have questions? I mean, it's a little more brief than we normally like to present, but I'm hoping to give you enough meat in this and to give you some
I have
background.
a question, it's not about the budget, but it's about the siding project for the elementary school.
Mhm.
So, did we decide next year you're gonna start it next spring?
Yeah, because we couldn't get the, until it was signed off by the governor, we weren't
Right.
sure it was gonna be there. We could not commit funds to start in June of this year. Therefore, it's gonna be June of 14 when that begins, and then we're talking with you, I think we're looking at the timber receipts and try to access some of those funds. But yeah, that brings a couple of million into the city or the community in
Right,
terms of.
and I did budget using some of the timber receipts for that. I wasn't
Yeah.
sure, I thought we'd talk more sometime about all the paperwork involved, if you're handling it, and then we're just, per your request, transferring
Mm-hmm.
timber receipt money to you, and.
I got to get
we'll
up to
figure
speed
that out.
on that.
Yeah.
So
Well,
Yeah,
and we'll have to have, all the, architectural design and everything, all the bids out, everything in place by June 1st, so there'll be a lot of spending
Lead
money
time.
before June 1st,
Right.
too.
Yeah.
To
Right.
get some of that in place.
and
Yeah.
looking at the grant or agreements that I was reading, there's certain, once you get to a certain, part of the project, then you ask for reimbursement for that, and so I just wanna make sure we know who's doing what.
And that's
So
great,
that
yeah.
doesn't-
When I first arrived here, they were in the middle of the roof project.
Yeah,
And so that, whatever, it went well, and we'll just, whatever that format was, I think just work on that and follow that same process. We're happy to do whatever you need us to do or vice versa.
Jody, did you work on that roof project with Wendy and Jenny?
a little bit, yeah, I think that they did all of the paperwork, and then we
Okay.
had to ask for the reimbursement, or, I can't remember, I'd have to look back too.
Okay, well we can work that.
There's some value in, working together on that one. On your roof project, for example, you left some money on the table. You probably weren't even aware of it. There was excess funds given back to the Department of Education.
Gee.
Another one.
And now, just say this very carefully, because your group's a little more difficult to wrangle money out of.
The Department of Ed?
Yeah,
No.
so, the chance
Tell me
of,
about it.
the likelihood of them allowing us to change the grant a little bit and use that money elsewhere was probably a lot less than what we can do on our projects.
We have just-
But you never know.
In terms of another project, we have been working with Jensen Grove a lot, and we've invested some of the CIP funds in a kitchen project to give it a full-blown, full-service kitchen. That's probably 2 or 3 years out there, but we just finished one, and maybe, if there's money, like you said, we didn't have anything at that point in time to roll it forward to, and that's why my goal is always have the next project in the pipe.
Yeah, it's just something our lobbyist caught.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just reviewing
All right.
stuff.
How much was it?
It was a sizable amount of money. It sounded like a couple $100,000.
Ooh,
For the roof?
I mean, now granted, this was just off the cuff.
that doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make sense, because the roof project
It
wasn't
was,
that
he
high.
said it was listed in, capital budget under Department of Education, reappropriation of Petersburg roof project money back to Department of Education.
Interesting.
And, he asked, it was at the last minute, he says, should I run this to ground? And he said, really, I can't do much about it. I said,
Yeah.
don't worry about it. But, it was, anyway, it got my attention and said, definitely something because he was able to get us Mountain View Manor. We had 45,000 left over, and we were able to, with his help, get the language changed a little bit on the grant. We were able to use that money to do
Yeah.
Not just roofing, but we're gonna actually
Well,
change, put some
because
carpet in.
It's funny the legislator didn't catch that,
Yeah.
because you like to reappropriate things to somewhere that you
Yeah.
wanna reappropriate it,
Right.
because the
Yeah.
easiest way to get money is once
Yeah.
it's already appropriated, to reappropriate it.
And I don't remember that
Huh.
either.
It was,
Wow.
none of us did. I mean, I got the phone call out of the blue and had no clue what he was talking about.
Because we had this really great project manager out there living in his trailer, and he was awesome, by the way. I can't remember his name, but he was good.
So, but anyway, I mean, they did a great job. I mean, it was
Yeah.
no big deal, but
Okay, well, that's good to know. Yeah, wow.
So it seems like our school district is in fairly good shape financially. I mean, you hear in the news about schools around Alaska and even in southeast Sitka talking about huge layoffs and cuts in programs. And it's commendable. It's good. Hopefully we can-
Yes.
Yeah, school districts are notorious for overhiring in times of boom and then having to lay off in times of bust. And over the last few years here, I mean, it's been a corporate, board-driven and administratively driven thing, don't do this, try to do that, and that was a goal, just so you know. We have a good program, but just because you have a good program doesn't mean you add, if we can't add to it with grants and stuff, like we're writing a 4-year grant for an obesity prevention one, but that's 4 years, $150,000 a year for the next 4 years, so $600,000. And we're using existing staff to do that and then backfilling so that you're not bringing on a lot of new stuff. That's always my goal, is keep it simple.
Is that, I know we've got into some grant paid for positions. For instance, the police officer at the
Airport.
airport, and we can't get rid of them now.
Right.
We have to keep that many numbers of officers on board for, I don't know, X amount of years, so just
Yeah.
something to
wow.
keep in mind. So even if
Yeah,
we
in our
don't
world,
outsource,
when the grant, if you fund a position with the grant, when it goes away, and we'll be looking at hiring internally, bring someone out, then our RIF process is significantly, that's one of the few things that we have better, is the RIF process is fairly well defined. And we would hire now with that RIF process in mind 4 years later, and hoping the conditions stay the same, so. And usually, my experience has been, within a 3 to 4 year period in a school district, there's enough attrition and retirement and movement and spouses that usually carry some of that stuff through when you have 60 employees or so.
They got real smart at Homeland Security with what they do. Is you must have that same number of officers at all time during the grant. So every time somebody leaves, that time goes away and it gets tacked on at the end.
Oh,
So
interesting.
Kind of a moving target.
Yeah.
So are you guys hiring any more teachers or?
We have one position, a first grade teacher has retired. Right now, the principal, we're on the cusp, trying to decide where a couple different ways to go. So depending on how she structures the building, so the answer is maybe.
But it wouldn't be a full-time. I actually had a conversation with her about it
Okay.
this morning, so.
Well, I heard the kindergarten class is kind of small this year, so,
It
or
is.
next year.
Next year, and
so-
that's the cusp piece, that's
Yeah.
what we're trying to figure out what to do. One of the, and I'm sure rather, I thought it was a creative proposal. When I was a principal, my superintendent, I had one of those cusp situations, and he gave me the opportunity, because it was hire or not hire, and hiring was gonna cost, with benefits and everything, $75,000, $80,000. And he said, if you don't hire, we'll give you the cost of the beginning teacher minus benefits and all that stuff in equivalent dollars, $40,000, and then you use it to build a program in the building. And it's only a 1-year deal, and I did that, and it was with full staff input, and we did that. So I've talked to Erica about that too, because it becomes a win-win deal. You're not hiring a person, you're taking funds that if you did, you can do some really wonderful things with, whether it's staff development, whether it's the technology, whether it's reading support, whatever. So the staff and she are talking that over.
Hey.
Hi. Well, and the current kindergarten's actually very large.
It's a
about
decent size,
45
yeah.
Or something. There's
That's a
like
problem in a district like ours where it
There's
does that.
27 first graders, 45 kindergartners, and 28 coming in or something.
Yep,
like that,
28.
so,
And
like,
it seems like the class after that's gonna be a big one. Lexi and Cadence and them.
Oh, that's 2 after that.
Oh, 2 more.
Right.
Well,
You
that's,
guys into the 2-year and
This
3-year-olds here now?
is a progressive board. We're looking into the future.
yeah.
And we know somebody's pregnant today, so
There you go.
now. It's gonna be huge.
We're doing our best.
Another thing that we are implementing, we've been working hard at doing for the last couple of years, and really only been able to do it seriously since Karen came on board and has had the time, and is really facility-based budgeting, where the principals know the dollar they have to work with, they know the dollar they have to stay within. If they spend it, and there was a perception at some point in this district's history that, well, the money was always there, the district office always had it, and they'd always save your bacon. Well, those days are gone. Now this is your budget, you're expected to live within it, run a great program, and it's a good budget. So, and kudos to Karen, she's really narrowing that down, getting the stuff into the system, and I'm just thrilled with the direction it's going in terms of accountability. So,
Well, we can now tell how much each sport costs.
Correct.
Before they were just lumped.
no, we're excited. It's gonna be
Which sport costs the most?
Was it volleyball? I almost thought.
it was interesting.
Basketball.
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 Yeah.
Well, that's because they're going to Sitka now, isn't it?
Well, and it changes each year
Changes,
depending
that's the
on where
problem.
they're traveling.
And so many kids.
So one year it might be basketball's the most, and then the following year it might be track because of where they're
Number of
traveling.
kids.
Just don't do football.
It's just nice to be able to track what's going on.
Yeah, I
And-
read some article that was a letter written about the track or the
That was a
divisions.
letter that several staff, and I commend them for that, because we administratively, working with the Alaska Activities and Sports Association, we're getting nowhere. I only wish they hadn't put it out without my signature, because I want to sign it too. But anyway, they wrote to the Juneau paper, and I think it got into the Anchorage paper, and it really, we are very frustrated with OSA. They seem to have a very myopic, we're very frustrated. The board has written letters, and
Well, I don't know if everyone knows what.
well, we got put in a different league, and the only people we really compete with now are Sitka and Edgecombe. We are not with our traditional and friendly rivals, Wrangell and all the people down here, and we always have to, and getting to Sitka, it's tough to do from here. So that's one of our frustrations. And you spend a lot of time, the kids are out of school a lot, whether they fly or whether they take the ferry, they miss more time, our coaches are gone, our sub costs go up. It's frustrating.
Well, and
It's a weird issue, because we have the same problem, totally unrelated, in our DA. I mean, for a long time, they kept talking about us being supported by Sitka, and how hard it is for the travel between here and Sitka. I wonder what, somewhere in someone's mind, we're next door to each other or something.
Yeah.
Well, and our numbers of students are right at the bottom of the league we're in. And so it goes.
150 is the breaking point, and our high school will be hanging in at 152, 153. And if we drop down to 148, below 150, you have to be there for 2 years before they'll reclassify you. So you go down, you up, you go down, you go up. No, it's just
So the likelihood of getting back
pretty minimal.
into 2A will probably never happen.
And we thought about starting another little school, pulling out.
So is Nikiski still in your level for tournament time, state-wise?
I don't know. I do not know.
Because they had to be on the opposite end of that, just under the top, where they would have bumped to 4A and,
Well, not to that's being recorded.
anyway.
Some of my superintendent colleagues figured out a way to make sure the numbers are right. I just don't play that game, so we're just gonna be honest.
Cool.
Yeah, looks good.
Any other
Good
questions?
job.
So,
So just hinging on the governor signing the budgets that, as it's been presented to him, then there'll be funding for the citing. and
Correct.
everything.
the 70% piece, yes.
Yeah.
But
How
no
long do they-
forward funding, nothing?
No.
How long do you think that would take? Were you hoping to?
They can do it, they say they can do it in the summer. If they get started the day school's out and they stage all their stuff before school gets out.
Does that include more insulation and windows and things like that?
No, those walls are interesting. They can take the entire wall out, put a new wall in. It's kind of a modular kind of thing.
They did that in Ketchikan a few years ago to Howling. You could drive by and look right into my daughter's classroom in the summertime because they had the wall off.
But it's time, they have single pane windows and it's just not good.
Oh, man.
There's something else I just thought of, you mentioned.
Insulation.
Well, there's
Oh,
the energy money.
The 21 million, there was a $21 million supplemental at the very end that got thrown out there. And if you're a district over 4,500, you have to use those funds for safety and security. Well, we're clearly not 4,500. We are doing some security things, and the city is, Borough, I don't know, is putting in the alarm system, and we're looking at some things. But our cut of that 21 million is 99,000. Districts under 4,500 can use it for energy relief and all that kind of stuff. So we can use it to pay some of those. We are not limited. We're taking Marcus Hom, who's doing our crisis plan, our emergency, and he'll be doing some training next year, so we're going to be funding some of him out of that, and we're going to be looking at some of our other stuff, but I don't think we have a $99,000, we're not like Anchorage, you know, so that helped a little. And then the 25 million, again, they're doing all this one-time money stuff, and it's really hard to budget around that. It's the third year in a row of 25 million, and but the base student allocation is staying flat, and they keep giving money over here, but you can't make long-term decisions over here. So that's why we're trying to keep it really, really, really thin. So we aren't faced with Sitka. We are not laying off. We haven't done that, golly, since I've been here, I think. It's been good.
I turn that out, I'm sorry.
No. Now, you know, in my other world with you, you get,
I know. I usually.
I see a rotary fine coming.
So I was at this meeting with Giesbrecht, and his phone goes off.
It's on the recording.
So maybe board members have something to add. I've kind of spoken too much. I'll shut up and let you ask questions.
I'm just here because I've never done this before, so I'm just throwing.
I will say one of the bigger goals that we have at the school district is to decentralize our budget. So Rob would kind of touched on that a little bit before, but this year we gave one piece of the puzzle to them, and that was teaching supplies, and I figured out what we've spent based on the budget this year with student enrollment, how much teaching supplies are for each location. So, you know, the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school. And of course, the high school is much more because we have the one-to-one initiative for the laptop rollout.
That's the bottom bullet on here. We were indexing to those numbers. That's what that is.
So this year, when we created teaching supply budget, it was based on the number of students that is projected to be in that location. So one little bite is taken off in this process to have the principals manage their own budgets. And, you know, I mean, obviously it'll be overseen by the district office, but, you know, I'm a numbers person. I'm not the curriculum person or the programming person. So when something comes in and they have a vision, the long-term goal is they know that they have the money in their budget to do that project or that whatever, that class that they want to do, rather than the district being the one to make the decision. So, I don't know.
So
Sounds
all
good.
the invoices were coming to you and you were?
They still
Well, they
all
still
do.
do.
They still
Oh,
do.
They don't sign off on them? the
They do
principals?
sign off on them.
They do.
But they're verifying, I have the money in my account, and everything. Obviously, the district will be able to help out if something goes awry, but we're keeping pretty close watch. But the whole point is, with that freedom of knowing you have the money comes the responsibility of making sure you spend it quickly. I think everybody grows in that kind of a deal. And it's not just big brothers watching. It's you can make decisions, but make sure that the decisions that are right for the
Right,
program. So,
Don't spend more money than you got.
well, that's the bottom line.
right.
Is our district, like a lot of school districts where teachers are often buying supplies for their students? Does that happen here or not?
Out of their own pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I think that there are
Yes.
a number
Some.
that.
And I'm assuming when they do that, they're paying sales tax on it, correct? Probably, maybe.
Probably.
I don't know.
Well, unless they
But
were-
you know,
Unless they're
Here's
old.
what I'm-
Yeah,
where I'm
they're
headed.
65.
Yeah.
The assembly
Get their
will
mother
be
to
actually thinking about the tax-free days here in the near future. And one of the things that was done where I was previously down south, I mean, granted it was done on a statewide basis because sales tax was a state issue, not necessarily local. And the sales tax holiday were actually done on a weekend. Started Friday at noon, ended Sunday, and it was much more specific. It was around school supplies and clothing.
Oh,
And
interesting.
they did it right,
Before
that
school.
weekend or 2 weekends before school started, to try to help parents
Families, nice.
and families
That's a good idea.
prepare for
Yeah.
the school. And you know, I don't know that our retail committee likes that idea, but I was just kind of curious what we had you
Probably
first,
haven't heard
you
of
know,
it.
it's,
Yeah, I would say that if they do, if teachers do, it's because of their heart commitment.
Yes,
No.
yes.
Because I think anything that, the budget we have set up, pretty much, we're committed to supplying what they need to teach the kids. But sometimes we, with papers, can't move as fast as they want to move. I want to get it today, so that's when they make that decision.
just curious.
Who funds your breakfast and lunch programs and all that?
USDA,
Yeah,
Okay.
National School Lunch Program.
yep.
Okay,
But we
We add to it.
We add to it, yep.
okay,
It
because
costs us about
like I was-
60,000 from the general fund.
I was telling you last week, I have a teacher friend in Juneau who has a rice steamer and a pancake griddle, and she feeds her kids, first graders, every morning because they're hungry.
Well, we have a breakfast program. In the elementary school, we have a fresh fruit and vegetable program, so all the kids get fresh fruit and vegetables at like 10 o'clock in the morning. We have the lunch program, and we even have an after-school program that was just started this year.
That is
And our
smart.
food service director is just incredible. She just got a $6,000 grant from the National School Lunch Program for 2 new salad bars. So
Great.
Yeah,
it's
we,
Can adults swing through it?
Yeah,
you can, you can.
Well, you know,
$5.
$5.
I'd be willing to pay.
The best $5 lunch you'll ever have.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Okay.
I was told that if you're part of the migrant ed program, you get free school
Correct.
That
lunches.
is-
Students
that's-
do.
Students.
So, and to become, or to qualify, you have to spend 7
You have to
nights
spend
out.
7 nights, 7 days out fishing. It doesn't have to be
And
consecutive.
that's good for 3 years or so.
Yeah,
Then
but
you
you have to
get-
redo it
That's
every
true.
year. It's good for 3 years, but every year you have to keep doing it
Requalify.
every year,
Oh,
the paperwork.
I see.
It's not complicated though.
No.
We actually have a migrant coordinator at the high school that can help anybody with paperwork.
You just gotta know where you were at those dates.
He's got
What
some
area you
specific
fished in.
hours. He works 4 hours, 3 hours a day.
3
Does the
hours.
school get a lot of funding from migrant? Is it a grant also?
I wouldn't call it a lot.
We get some
Um,
funding.
Yeah, some. There's some. For supplies and materials.
it's federal monies, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how to turn it off now.
Shut down.
The SEPA engineer last night said he came to Petersburg and went to Rotary with Dave Carlson, and it cost him a lot of money.
I never turn it off.
But we're quite proud of our food service program. It's come a long way in 2 years, and that's this whole obesity prevention grant. The grant itself we've just written is 82 pages. 25 of it's the grant, and the remainder is all the support documents. But we're quite proud of what we've written, and we'd love to get that. It'll help. We've got a lot of things happening, and this will allow us to encircle it and make it a strong program. We just adopted a brand new wellness and student nutrition and physical activity policy, and it's like 3 pages, 4 pages long. But this district's on the cutting edge of all that stuff. It's amazing.
Wonderful.
It's,
Great.
My kids love school, so
Yeah.
on a personal note.
And the
Um,
garden,
Great job.
the garden all works into this too, which is a participation agreement with the Forest Service. I mean, there's a lot going on at the school.
It's really cool.
That's great.
and a lot of it's just not the school. I mean, there's all these. It's a great community. Everybody pulls in and does stuff. It isn't just the school. I mean, it's the Forest Service and it's the service organizations and it's PIA and it's just a lot of good
Mental
stuff.
health.
Well,
Mental health.
In the Northern Nights Theater too, really.
Northern Nights, yeah.
Like
That's
they're-
part of it.
On
So
that
anyway,
note, at
They're
3
in our
o'clock,
budget.
Are we still on for bringing, or?
Yes, you tell
bringing
us.
or
If you don't get
4
blown
o'clock,
away.
Excuse me, 4 o'clock.
Yeah, whenever we'll be there.
Come
This
into
is-
the district office?
Great weather for interviewing.
Yeah, really. Those two off the plane, were they a little upset?
Which
That
plane?
when we got down on the ground, there was
That's-
clapping going on in the
Oh,
back
is
of the
it?
plane.
Yeah.
It's really rough coming in here.
Oh, well, that might seal the deal right
All
now.
right. I was hoping it was gonna be like that. Welcome to Petersburg,
Yeah.
boys.
Here's
Well,
the
Rob
real deal.
Rob came in,
Yeah.
landed in Wrangell, had to take the little
Boat
little
across.
Yeah.
to come into the bus.
Lug my suitcase
That's
through the
when-
water and the rocks.
That's when Rob.
The airplane's still on the ground.
Is it?
Oh, is it?
Here.
It's snowing in
Trying
Juneau.
to get to Juneau.
Oh, yeah, and there
He
are
doesn't
2
fly.
planes circling Juneau, waiting for snow to stop.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm glad I'm not flying this
It's almost May.
I know.
that's right. Well, 6 inches of snow on the ground.
Almost scary.
So
We kind of digress. Is there anything, this is important stuff. I didn't know what else we can answer for you. If you have any,
I said to Steve, it's like this.
Mine went like this.
Don't know I'm in a boat.
Well, everything you have to present, it sounds like things are going well.
It is. We wish we had a budget to present. Like I
No.
said, it won't be significantly different. It's just things out of our control cause us not to be able to meet this timeline.
It's gonna be, you know, in fact, Jody and I have already talked to this, with the borough and then the legislative process, you know, we're already looking at having to back up our budget process to start it earlier to meet because of the 3 readings of an ordinance.
So you're
and
kind of experiencing some of this stuff.
So, yeah, it's, anyway,
Yeah, and
we apologize for
we,
that.
we do have to, revise all of the code, the municipal code, and so there's a section on the school board and the hospital board that will probably send to you first, so you guys can review it and talk about maybe changes that you wanna see in it, update it a little to make sure it follows the state statutes and everything, and then before assembly looks at it to adopt it.
Because one of the things that, this is a complete change of subject, but that I've been thinking about is actually upping our board numbers from 5 to 7. I mean, it hasn't been that easy to get board members, but I think 5 is just too small. We have a real problem getting a quorum and things like
Well,
that.
that would be the time to probably
It
do
might
it.
be the
It's not
time
in
to
the
do it,
charter.
that's
Yeah.
why I'm mentioning it.
It is in the charter, I
Oh,
think,
it
Hammond,
is?
well,
Now,
let me look.
did you guys have to do the APOC
charter.
filing?
Yes,
Yes,
So it would help if we get rid of that
yes.
yes.
in a little special election this fall.
That-
5 members
That
of this
hasn't been
charter.
budgeted in this
It's
year's
the
budget
charter,
for
so it would need
election.
to be by
Just
But
on the
he's,
fall.
Kathy said it would be maybe 7,500.
Right, I think it's worth it.
I do too.
So when you
It's in
do
the
have
charter.
the first real
Yeah,
election.
no, you guys, I've
It'll
read
be-
the state law.
it'll be
And
done.
We have to
Yeah.
request
The other
you
thing
to
too,
change
Mark,
it.
Well, we,
about
and
that is
that's what-
Yeah,
we
you have
can't
30
change it.
days
and
after you
it's
get
in our
elected to,
charter,
Oh,
so
oh,
we
to,
can't change
file.
it.
Right,
It has to
exactly.
be
so we
voted
could
on
wait
by
until
the
we had a
public.
real
Oh,
election.
it's in the charter
And
at
here's a
5.
copy, you can
Oh.
have that.
You know, and
I
then
just-
just,
But that, but
Yeah, we-
knowing.
Actually, I
yeah.
have a couple copies,
Yeah, and then
so
hopefully
you
it's
guys can
out
have
and we
that.
don't
Yeah.
have to file.
Yeah, we need to
Okay,
get
this
Rick
is-
So
Richard back
when
in somewhere.
are you guys going to have your
People like
first
that that-
Oh,
That was-
budget
I
reading
mean, that was
at
like
your,
on
at
day
your
29.
The
meeting?
next
Turns
council
my
meeting
head.
is gonna be our
After- what's the
first
point?
budget meeting.
Did you
Or
do it
first-
online?
I did.
Reading
First
of it?
budget,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's fast.
Yep, and we're actually putting in there the mill rate too, and then,
So it wasn't very intrusive.
yeah, cause that has to be approved by June
Ron is
15th,
so
and it has to be passed by the
tired.
ordinance form.
They needed all his customers. His wife
Yeah.
said, no way.
Well, when I have the school budget done, I will contact you and,
Well, and in our general fund budget is the 1.8 million, we,
And then
that's what we
Nancy
have.
was saying, you know, you just have to ask
So
if
does
you
the
make
hospital
over
have
200,
seven?
under 5, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, right.
were the health,
You don't have to write
health
down real numbers,
rates
you know, we're
as much as you guys had anticipated?
18%,
Well,
12%.
Oh, good, because weren't you guys looking at 40?
Really makes me
Oh,
look
oh,
good, make a
15.
lot of
I mean,
money.
to be able to- it's gonna get
Yeah, me too.
hit with
Went up
higher.
a bunch.
But it
Yeah.
wasn't,
yeah, it wasn't very worse, but they got rid of a really high
Right.
thing for
it
us.
wasn't real specific.
After
Well,
city.
I had to put Laura down.
No longer employed with
Our
us,
lot
and
of
they agreed to not include it in the rating.
California gravel patch or wherever that is.
That's nice. That helps your,
That does help.
Here,
Yeah.
up here somewhere.
And maybe we don't wanna be making changes to the charter this early on.
You know, that's a pretty innocuous change. I don't know how people would react to that or not.
Gene, have you got people that are interested in joining up?
Actually, I have heard of one more
Okay.
Well, it's sure nice
outside.
because people travel so much, you know,
My
to
daughter
keep
just
a
told me that this
quorum and then to get more input from different viewpoints when you're
Yeah.
doing something new and different and controversial or whatever.
Well, and I've served on the hospital board with 7, and I've been on the school board twice with 5, and I just don't feel it's quite enough to be making some of these important decisions. Especially when you're doing it with 3, a lot of the time.
Well, that's the thing,
That's
yeah.
the, you know,
to
I mean,
get
it
a
would still
quorum.
be just 4, but it's a little better than 3.
Did we discussed that at the assembly level already, which boards to keep or not, did we put a number on yet? Have we-
No, actually, the assembly kind of tabled it and said we'd come back to it at some other point.
Yeah,
And so
we're
we-
still waiting for
But
input.
that doesn't really apply to the school board as much as it did all the advisory boards. School board, like planning and zoning and hospital board are charter issues, so any changes to those have to be voted
No,
on.
that's not coming up now.
Cool,
anything else?
thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you
for your
for all the
time.
support in schools.
I'll have them down there at 4.
We are your future.
You are.
Thank you, guys. It's a great city and borough.
and school.
Yes.
Yes, I just had somebody stand on my
I
desk
was
and came
estimating
down
an
to
hour for
see
the
about
school,
Borough.
so I know
She
Kim
was
is
just
here
real
for the
close.
hospital.
Brought her with her to school, they- some of them- through it.
Tom was gonna come.
There's been
Where
a
did
lot
she
of
come
good
I don't know
stuff.
if we should take a little break
Coming
for a
from,
couple minutes.
I don't know if she's coming or not. but,
Call Tom?
She was
She
in
should be
like-
here.
Well, do we know, I mean, or anybody else from the other
Husband
groups
was
gonna
in
come?
Afghanistan.
You know?
We've got Ann here, we could do Ann.
Still is an answer.
So 4 o'clock, we'll see you and whomever is.
Thank you.
We got two of the three
Jean,
candidates.
after we did our Swan
The other
Lake
one, like I
tour,
said,
Peggy went with
stuck in
us
Juneau
out
for
there.
the moment.
Okay.
This guy
Which one
took
is stuck
her
out of
up in this
curiosity?
big
The Alaskan
loader
candidates,
digger.
We could do a couple
Showed her
couldn't take
all
off
the
and
controls
ferry
were.
a couple
Yeah.
minutes,
And
you know?
then
And
jumped
they're
out
overnight
and let her
in
scoop
Juneau,
up a big
and then
load
won't
of
be here
dirt
till
and
tomorrow
move it
morning.
over here.
Well, if you want to go to schools on Saturdays, give me a call.
She had so
Well,
much fun.
Saturday,
she'd have a boss
She was
who's-
really
Anytime.
cute.
well,
Are
she
you
called me,
getting
it may be
pictures?
Monday,
Whenever.
Tuesday before they leave town.
Let me know.
Even.
We'll do it.
Sorry, yeah.
No worries.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And were you here for Christina?
Well,
I've been
yeah,
getting a
Dave
lot of
Burke
calls.
had said
So
12:30.
it's a
Oh,
problem.
well, we could, if, unless you wanted to wait for him, did you wanna just talk about it now with the assembly and be done?
We could if, I mean, Dave has more information on the cost of the actual product.
Okay.
I'm more involved on the running of it and the community part. So there are points I could stress, or you can wait for Dave, whatever's comfortable.
When did Dave say he was gonna be here?
10 minutes ago. That's typical.
Yeah, I think they
That was Monday, he said, oh yeah, 12:30, yeah.
Why don't I go down and just call a few people? You guys
So Steve, which of the two candidates showed up?
The guy from Illinois, BJ Wilkinson,
One that the
Rob
city
Kappelman
manager.
from Wisconsin, both made it. And Kelly from Luna, said stuck in Juneau.
Oh, he's there. Oh, so
he is
there
gonna
is
come
still
in.
one stuck.
He'll make it.
A couple.
Yeah, he'll make it.
They were just waiting for that snow's flurry.
It's float plane service out of Luna, so he couldn't get off the ground. So him and his wife jumped on a ferry. So that's scheduled to land in Juneau at 4,
Oh,
which
perfect.
means you can't get on the airplane. So Dave's helping them.
Go to
They're
catch
gonna-
cat in the morning, come
So
up.
they'll be in at 10:30, we'll do a revised our boat trip to leave at 1:30, just go to the glacier. So they'll be able to make that still, unless something else changes. But
So are the two who are here impressed with the
Kind of
weather?
looked like there was a lull between this low and the next low. Hopefully they'll get to see a mountain top or
Yeah.
something.
Sounds like the winds are predicted to be light northerly tomorrow morning, so.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Nice.
You're set up
Good.
to do it, so
Till
that's
the
what I was
afternoon.
thinking.
Yeah.
That's right. It's supposed to be blowing southwest tonight, I guess, switching to southwest, which is a clearing wind.
And I'm gonna
Yeah,
play.
which would be nice.
So what do the two who have arrived already think of the weather?
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like they like me.
we're all smiles. I mean, I
Excited.
heard his wife, you never know for sure whether it's, on purpose or not, but she was talking to her husband and said, God, it's pretty here.
What could she see?
Who was this?
The muskeg?
Well, no, because,
One of the
no, it's,
candidates' wife.
it's like rolling,
Rachel from Wisconsin.
no, you know what it is, it's like rolling across the bar at Yakutat and then looking at Yakutat and go, man, this is the most beautiful place I've ever seen.
Yeah, so happy to be
One
on
of
the
these
ground.
guys going up there thinking, man, I'm alive and I wanna buy property here.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't wanna get back on an airplane.
The airport is smack dab in the middle of what should be high property tax residential view lots, so.
No, that's the dump.
Yeah, I was just
Yeah,
gonna
the
say,
dump.
that's what Cindy said, the garbage
Yeah.
dump takes that.
Yeah,
The
yes.
airport is too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does have
You
great
have a-
views.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's so nice up
Well,
there,
up on
like
the
Lincoln
hillside
High
at the
does
airport.
housing where you can see
Oh,
all
yeah.
the mountains and the sound and.
Well, even up here at the, up above, at the end of the trail from the airport. I hadn't walked all the way up to
Oh,
the
yeah,
top until
we
recently,
walked-
or
yeah.
actually at Scow Bay, and it was just
Yeah, it's
phenomenal
beautiful,
view.
isn't
Yeah.
it?
mean the
There?
bypass?
And Severson's, up in
Bypass,
Severson's, those people have that nice
Yeah, but
360
it's even
view.
more when you get up a little higher. The trees have grown up a little bit in Severson.
Yeah, like Holly and Casey live on the second story, so they're, I mean, she does dishes, can see Devil's Thumb,
Oh, yeah,
and,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's really nice back there.
So I was trying to come to the meeting, and I had everything lined out, and then the phone rang. And so I dealt with the phone, which I shouldn't have answered, and then I set down a blueberry smoothie on the counter and turned and hit it. And I mean, I had blueberry smoothie on the walls, in the cupboards, on the floor, on carpets, on me. Like, I just called Cammie and said, I'm coming, but I'm not going to be on time. It was a mess.
That is a mess. I do stuff like that pretty often.
Well, I was so pleased with myself because I had about 5 things I had to get done before I came in
Some
this
other
morning.
museums.
Because I just got the vouchers for
Sorry,
Borough.
last year it took about an hour and a half for
I
them
was so
to
worried the flights would get booked up.
Next
So
year.
I called Boise and I talked to the band and I got all their info and I got the flights arranged and then I had a couple other things to take care of. And I'm, hopping around, okay, got that off my list, and then
You get those giant bags of blueberries?
well, no, they're from our garden.
Oh, the good ones. I would never put those in a smoothie. Those are so precious.
Yeah,
You had
we
lots
got
of them.
3.5 acres, and so we just pick and pick and pick.
I only got out once or twice last year. So I love those things.
I know, and at first I would save them, and then I realized I had some from the year before because I was being so miserly with them. So now I'll throw them in different things, pancakes. But every time I make a pie, it's like 4 cups of them.
Yeah. The SEPA meeting was, it was so interesting because they had everybody there telling us the value of SEPA. They had their SEPA attorney spelling out the legal ramifications of if we broke this thing up or kept it. They had the bond guy there talking about we're committed to bonds and we can't just be willy-nilly dropping out
And then
or
you can't sell your bonds.
no.
Right.
We had who else? The engineer talking about things in the works. Anyway, I felt like I was a naughty schoolgirl being lectured. Even though I knew they weren't talking to me. They knew I wasn't about to break up SEPA. But anyway, it started with Lou Williams III, the mayor of Ketchikan.
Is he in
married?
favor of keeping it intact? Because
Yes, I think so. But he came and they opened their meetings with, I forget the name on the agenda, but people can talk or something. Anyway, so just anybody who wants to can come and make comments right at first. He had 2 yellow, long legal tablet sheets full. We've heard rumors of this, we've heard rumors of that, what is happening here, how much do you have in your reserves, on and on and on and on. And it all was addressed within the meeting. And it just kind of cleared the air and it was very interesting. And then Trey got up and we had the history of the thing. It was just excellent.
it's a win-win deal.
It
that we
is a
got through the
win-win
state.
deal.
I don't understand why.
We don't want any liability, and we don't want,
Dave Carlson was talking to me just a couple weeks ago. Just on unrelated issue, and he saw fit to kind of chime in a little bit because he'd heard it. And he was talking about, Steve, it's as simple as the submarine cable between Wrangell and Petersburg. Because do you think the Petersburg ratepayers want to pay to replace that versus all of the SEPA ratepayers, meaning all of the communities having to pay for that?
there are
when it's-
roughly 12,000 electric meters in all of SEPA. We have about 2, Wrangell has about 2, and Ketchikan has 8, So just think about that. There are 4 of those cables in 4 spans of submarine cable. Each one, if it breaks, is what? Was it $5 million?
Yeah, it's huge.
$5 million,
To replace or just repair?
to replace what? While salt water gets in,
And they're
it's
liquid filled, pressurized.
Yeah.
So-
Because they're pressurized to keep, in case it does spring a leak, that they can get to it fast enough before the fluid leaks out.
Well, there's probably a gauge there that says, oh, you got a leak.
Yeah.
It starts showing.
There is a pressure gauge, too, and then it wasn't sending out the proper readings.
Yeah.
Oh,
But,
okay.
but you know, it's back to it, is that, you know, you can imagine if we had to replace one for 5 million, what that would do to our rates.
And then the next issue
Yeah.
is the way the state is organized now politically.
Yep.
We don't have a whole lot of clout in Southeast, and better to be organized together as a Southeast group than to go Petersburg, well, we wanna, you know, raise our dam or whatever, and apparently Bert Stedman had spoken at a chamber dinner earlier in the week or last weekend or something and said,
Yeah.
stick together, folks, it's the only prayer we have.
I just,
So
you know, I
did-
had a conversation with Paul Southland when he was in town, and he continues to insist, nope, it'd be better for
Oh, have a seat.
Wrangell owned
Have a
tight.
seat.
Have a seat,
Oh,
Sue.
wow,
Oh, God.
I don't get that one.
Hey.
Did you make it out to Swan Lake?
Yes, it was fascinating. It was great.
Pretty disappointed I couldn't make it.
There's a website where all the pictures are for you.
I just won the.
Is that for everybody or just Mark?
Everybody. I have this business card.
Good.
No secrets,
No,
no
I didn't
secrets.
think so.
Really?
I have a business card. There's Robert Venables. I had a cake dinner time meeting with him yesterday,
And then goes Starry Night.
and a flosser.
Really
Somewhere in here. Here it is.
This is fun.
If you go to KFMJ radio station, she's got a Facebook. Yeah. Who? Well, her name is Anita Hales. It's on the radio station's Facebook page.
I don't know if you can, they probably want to use it only.
Yeah.
KFMJ at
I will
alaska.fm.
definitely ask before it goes anywhere.
Hi, Sally. Sally and Sue, thank you for coming on. Last week I went downstairs and we called because we're ahead of schedule
Oh,
and
yeah, here.
they came early for us. So thank you. I appreciate it very, very
She
much.
took, I bet you hundreds of pictures. And it was so fascinating.
What a nasty day. It's,
I wanted Rocky to be able to see him
fall.
because
It's
he
our
would have
moisture
gotten
festival.
more out of it than I did, but
moisture
it was
festival.
incredibly
On a positive
interesting
note,
to
I was
me.
talking to Doug Reamer today, and he said he just flew the the fishing game up to Petersburg Lake, and it was lower this time than it has been in years past, so it's a nice thing to have the rain. That's what he was saying. It's a good thing to have rain.
Really?
Swan Lake was hardly had any water
What's
in
that?
it. Just,
Well, that's after being
Yeah, they
drawn
are.
down all winter.
Oh, yeah, they are.
well, yeah.
Watch the guy that goes up there, you know, video. That's
So,
Joe Prince's son.
Everybody was happy at
Joe
SEPA
Prince.
that it was raining.
So the museum asked for $42,000. We put the full amount in this year's budget. I don't know. And so there's that project going on right now for your retaining wall. And is there anything that you want to talk about?
No, I'm looking, no, I don't know exactly what you need to know,
Well,
but,
It's just if there's any questions from the assembly on their funding.
oh yeah, there's plenty of money for the retaining wall. In fact, I think there's gonna be money left over.
The bids came
yeah.
in really good.
Yeah, like wow. So,
Like
that
how much money left over? Do you remember?
40,000?
I think the engineer's estimate was 82,000. I think the
Bid
sorry,
was-
The
word
low
for
bid
it.
was
The
44,000.
potential, yeah,
And
we
the-
haven't awarded it yet,
The
but yeah.
high bid was 62,000. It was such a big difference. And both were lower than the engineer's estimate. That Carl called the high bidder and
I
said,
found through it here a couple days ago.
did
so
you
I
understand
realized.
everything correctly, and is this what you really bid? And it was.
Yeah,
And the same with the low bidder.
yeah.
So perhaps next year, we'll be reappropriating money for
Yeah.
a different purpose for the museum.
Yeah, I don't know
This-
cause that's state money, right? And I'm not
Right,
sure what
it's
the
from a
rules
state
are.
grant.
We
but-
can help with that.
Oh, cool. How fun is that?
Yeah.
I mean, there could be something else.
Be thinking about that and be
Yeah.
ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When does
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
grant sunset out? When does it?
I think it's at least 2,000.
Wet out there.
Usually they're
So
5
that's
years.
A new grant, so
A
we've still
newer,
got a couple
yeah,
of years left.
yeah, yeah.
Well, we've had it for a couple
So,
of years.
yeah, we'll see if there's any change orders and.
So you got
Yeah.
what, like 3 years
Before
left
then.
then?
Yeah,
No idea.
Across
Yeah.
the years.
it should be, it
I
should
mean,
be
their whole
pretty
year budget
straightforward,
from us
because,
is 42.
unless they come across some cool dinosaur or
we could
something, I don't know, but I don't know. Yeah.
Just
Probably
funding
gonna be a
2,000
dog or a
next
cat we
year.
buried across the street from our house.
Something like that.
Yeah, the neighborhood graveyard.
Did anyone have any other questions for Sue? Or?
Did a local contractor get the bid?
The same,
Yes.
Read.
They haven't awarded it yet, but yes.
Yeah. From what I gather.
Well, no, because.
Trying to be careful, because we just got the bids, they haven't been awarded, you get to do that at your next meeting, so.
There were only local contractors bidding.
So we have to
Yeah.
wait until-
Everything's full.
Yeah.
And you got the flags ordered?
We got the flags, they're done, and I sent the paperwork in to you
Yes, I saw
yesterday.
that.
You got it already?
Yeah.
Oh, something's going on with it.
So their flags didn't cost as much for the transient room tax money.
Yeah.
But you know what? The advertising in the paper cost a little more than I had anticipated, so I can use it to cover that.
Okay, so you
No,
want
that's
it,
great.
I'll write you a check for
Yeah, that
25,
would be
okay, good, okay.
This is one big happy
Come on
family.
in, Susan. Come in out of the rain.
Don't
Wait, no, sit at the
Oh,
table.
you can sit at the
Yeah,
table.
come sit at the
Yeah.
table. Yeah, find a spot there.
Any other questions from the assembly for the museum?
Groovy, that was so fun,
Try to make it easy.
yeah.
I like when you have more money than you need for a project.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, isn't
Of
that
course,
nice?
knock on wood.
Knock on wood, yeah.
And so for the Chamber of Commerce, if everyone knows, the transient room tax receipts go to the chamber. They're around $30,000 of them, and then historically, we've been bringing in an additional $10,000 in timber receipts, transit room tax funds that go towards grants. Sally, did you want to talk about how the chamber uses the transit room tax money?
Well, as you probably know, we're in a partnership between the city, the Forest Service, and the Chamber of Commerce to man the visitor center and promote Petersburg to the world as best we can with the money we have. And the TRT money fund was created for basically a chamber to do that. And the excess funds was also created for the nonprofits in town to have an avenue to purchase things that would be tourist related for the community benefit. And I know that this year 3 different groups applied through the chamber, or 2 different groups plus us, and I think the 3 items that were selected will be really good in the long run, with the photo gallery and the calendar for the Rainforest Festival and for the Viking Ship Park Bench. We're waiting right now on the new freight charges. Even though the bid was 2 years old, they are honoring the same price for the bench of $1,217 plus freight. So the museum's getting one and we're getting one to start with, to kind of get them in town so people can see them. We just finished our annual operating plan. We actually finalized it in October, but the Forest Service just now sent it this week to be signed. They're a little behind. I don't know why. Normally we have it in our hand when the new fiscal year, federal fiscal year rolls over, but we have a blank one right now. And we keep our budget pretty bare bones, pretty lean. We share all the costs, 60-40 with the Forest Service. They pay the 60, the chamber pays the 40 with the funding that we get on all utilities and anything to do with the visitor center, salaries included. And as you know, May 6th we start our summer schedule. For 4 months we'll be open 7 days a week. And we'll have 2 employees again. Sonia Whitethorn will be returning as our summer person, and then of course Marilyn Minishmuchi is our full-time person. So things are clicking right along. I know that this year the pilot has said that they will be paying a portion of the postage cost for mailing the visitor's guide. I think Ron said $2,000, which would be huge for us. That's like huge. It's like a third of our postal budget. And I haven't seen anything from him officially, just kind of words, and we're real excited about that. Because it'll give us a little leeway to do other things to help make the visitor center more informative. And we're also going to be reformatting our website this year to include the marketing logo that the city has selected through the PEDC with the votes. Apparently all of our website HTML writing and code work is done in a vertical format. We have to change everything to horizontal. It's gonna be about a $10,000 change just to get the boat logo on our website. It's huge, but at the same time, we're gonna kind of revamp things a little bit. We keep getting very good comments, very positive comments from people about the content on our website. So we're pleased about that. I had a letter today from a woman saying, you know, I loved your website, can't wait to come to Petersburg and visit your town. I just sat with her on the airplane a week ago. But we are in a city-owned building. We have apparently a 50-year lease, $1 a year, but I've never received a bill for $1, so maybe the first year they paid $50, I don't know. But we do pay property tax. 3 years ago, we did have it reevaluated because we didn't feel that we should be paying for the whole lot, where we were only using a 30 by 25 foot portion of it. We actually were paying the property tax on the charity box, the city shop, and the whole alleyway. And so they reduced it by about $350, and we are now paying just for our building. Any questions from anybody?
Come have a seat, you
Oh,
guys.
we really appreciate everything the city does for us. I even brought that the city donates to the fireworks and a few other things for the chamber. And this year we're working together on the Alaska Marine Highway 50th anniversary party that the community is
Excellent
going to.
job, by the way. I watched that,
video.
that video, yeah.
There's
I just
3
happened
more.
to be- Is there 3 more coming?
Mhm.
This one was a whole hour long.
Yeah, the others, there's 3 more total, 4 total.
3 other ones are more oriented
All around the
towards
state.
communities, right?
Yeah,
That's gonna be interesting to see.
yeah.
So on the 6th, is that when it is, or 5th, when the ferry
Third.
comes through? 3rd, I know it's sometime. we got
Next
some
Friday the
calendar.
3rd.
Next Friday.
Right.
And we
Next
need you if
Friday.
you're gonna be in town, because we have a
I'll
gift
be in
from the
town.
community
Yeah.
to present.
Oh, okay.
Kathy Harris has painted a Rosemont large plate, wooden plate, with the picture of the ferry and Devil's Thumb, and then the years honoring the ferry system, and it's from the community of Petersburg.
And so you could go on board and have a meal?
Go on board and have
We'll get an
dinner.
ice cream
And
cone.
visit the bridge, that, I'm excited
They're
about
just
that.
gonna have open house
Kids
on the
kinda
ship,
used
and
to
we've
do
got the
that.
Likering dancers planning to dance on board like we did 50 years ago, freezing our little knees off in January weather on the ships. We've got fireworks planned off PFI Point for Friday night. The pyros, Dave Berg and his buds are all getting that organized. We have 540 cookies baked, and we're going to be decorating them Tuesday, Wednesday, and bagging them on Thursday. So if anybody wants to learn how to do color flow, they're welcome to come to the Sons of Norway at 6:30 next week. We need lots of people to help decorate. And then we've asked the Sitkawan dancers to perform the traditional march in, but there apparently a lot of them are going to be in Wrangell for the Shakes Island dedication.
The day before.
But I am going to ask a few that I know that aren't going to please wear their regalia and just be part of things, because I want to represent both heritage, cultural things in our community, which is pretty strong. And then we are asking the people in town to line up on Front Street like we did when the ferry came through 50 years ago. It'll be evening, so it'll really show up well. Honk your horns, toot your lights, whatever, you know. Just let them know we're there while the fireworks are going off and they're leaving port. So it should be a memorable evening for people.
Passengers will think that's something that happens every trip.
Well, then they just better come back.
Well, if there aren't any
Okay.
questions for Sally, maybe we could sneak Susan in, since she was so good to hurry down here and take her.
I feel a little unprepared. That was
Join the
a
crowd.
really tough act to follow. Does anyone have any questions? I mean, I'm happy to talk about how wonderful I think the program is, and how much I'm grateful for the the funding that you've given us over the years. This is our 20th year, so of unprecedented city support, and it just allows us to do so much more than even what the dollars are, because it allows us to leverage other things and gain other grants and contracts through it. So does anyone have any questions about what we do, or?
I'm curious to know how many people you serve a year.
We serve less than we used to because of all the admin costs that are going up, but it's typically around 300 people. So, which isn't bad.
Is that in
10%.
both the mental health and alcohol and drug abuse services?
Yes, yes. About almost half of the people that we serve have either a substance abuse problem or a mental illness and a substance abuse problem co-occurring. And I think actually the numbers are higher. I think that as we get more sophisticated with our assessments, that we'll have more people who have a drinking problem as well as a mental illness who come in.
Just to clarify, we did put in the budget what they requested of the 50,000 and the 35,000
Thank you.
dollars.
I just want you to bring back the fish.
I want to too.
Let's do a halibut this time.
I'd love to do a halibut.
That's a great idea.
That's a great idea. We just felt like with all of the nonprofits around town doing fundraisers that for the time that it took to do that, it would be better for us to step back. But
Did that really generate a significant amount of money?
No.
That's what I wondered.
No.
Grants were a better
Brought
source.
a lot of awareness, though.
I loved that.
Yeah.
And I think once we get our website up, because we have a terrible website, but we'll get a website up, and I think that's going to spur us to being more present in the community. I hope people have noticed that we're out in the community a lot with some of our other projects. Like we were just up at the Parks and Rec doing a Lock Up Your Liquor campaign, and we're doing a lot of violence prevention. We'll be doing bystander intervention. It's a motivational approach of kind of meeting you where you're at. Like if you saw someone getting fed liquor in a way that meant that, oh, they might be victimized later, what are the options that you could do? It doesn't always have to be, stop. It can be some other ways to improve safety. And so we're very excited about that. And you'll see a lot of suicide prevention going on. And my favorite is the senior activities, the senior prom and all of that. And we couldn't do that without the number of people that we have. And I mean, it's all things that I'd think, oh, I'd love to do that, and then I never have time. So I appreciate the support. You guys are amazing. And the state knows you guys are amazing. Thank you.
It's nice to have that kind of support in our town.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's affecting 10% of your population. It's huge.
So, when you're talking about the senior prom, are you including those people in your numbers?
No.
Yeah, because I think your reach is farther than you
Oh,
probably
it is.
count.
Yeah, those are the people who come and fill out 28 pages of admissions packet paperwork and become formal clients.
Okay.
So
Susan, what are you doing in the schools these days? Are you guys up there?
we are about. Kim actually wrote a grant for the school that will allow us to go in, and it's about identifying kids at risk for suicide and depression. So we'll be doing depression screenings, and the teachers will be doing that as well. And it'll allow us to get back into the school and provide what we're hoping is we do what we did last time, which was when we had the funding with the school, is the school would pay for 1 to 4 sessions of actual therapy for kids. And we either solve the problem in 4 sessions, or we have those 4 sessions to get them down into our offices and transfer them to be a client. We also can bill Medicaid so that it doesn't cost the school anything if the child happens to be on Denali Kid Care or Medicaid. So it's a very cost-effective way for the school to get counseling services and a variety of counselors available. So we're hoping to do that next year. We got funded, so that's very exciting for the school. And that's the school's grant. They're just using some of it to allow us to come in and do that. So
Thank you guys
thank you.
for coming
Thank you very much.
early.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate it.
Jody, who do you
That's-
think's next on the list?
Well, we had scheduled the hospital at 1 because we got done with the school early at noon, and so I had made a few phone calls.
So that leaves
From town that were at 1:30, so.
the poor
I have to
Compass
run
Theater
off.
lady.
Yeah, Mountain Dew cruises. Damon's
Thanks.
not here yet.
That's pretty fun.
So Damon's not here yet.
No.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
So when are the next series coming out? It just happened.
The what?
I just
Oh,
turned
the
on the
video?
TV and it was on
It's on,
K2, and I went, oh, I'm gonna watch this
Hey,
instead.
send a list of the dates, but I
Yeah,
don't
I've got a
Easter
list.
egg.
I've got a list of the dates too, but
Yeah.
and then they're
Keep
going to be
checking
shown.
360 North.
And it'd be nice to be able to
Yeah.
get a set of them, I think they're kind of cool.
Oh, yeah, they're really cool.
And they're also gonna be filming, on the vessel when it's in
10?
port.
15.
K2 has already asked me to line up several people to interview, which I've done. So, thanks, everybody. See you later.
Cool.
So I had mentioned earlier, right when we started the meeting, that the assembly doesn't approve the hospital's budget, nor do they approve the schools. But per our charter, we're suggested that we meet at least once a year, and we thought during budget time might be a good time just to talk about what the hospital is up to. So, I don't know if anyone had specific questions, or if you want to talk about what's going on with the hospital.
Do you have any questions or?
Oh, well, I have a couple questions, I guess, then.
Sure.
I don't wanna
Just
start.
generally, how are you doing financially?
Well, I could probably speak, so I'm Elizabeth Jarrett, the CEO, and then Ro is on our board, and Leanne is our CFO, Ying is our CFO in training, and Tim is on our board, and then Tom Abbott, of course, is our board chair, so. Of course, we get all our revenue based on our operations, and it's a struggle. There's probably no doubt about it. I've been here 2 years, and I would say we're breaking even, but we're not getting ahead. And what happens then is, if you have no money for capital equipment or capital repairs, then it's kind of like your home. Every year that you defer painting or putting new carpet or putting that furnace in or fixing your roof, then it only is gonna get worse. So I would say that basically we're kind of holding our own on operations, but we have no margin and we're not getting ahead. And so it is gonna be a concern as critical access funding gets decreased over time with healthcare reform. There's bills every year at the federal level to reduce the percentage of payment to critical access hospitals. Right now, we have fee for service and on Medicare and Medicaid, and we are doing okay on that. But you will see and probably our health insurance costs. We have a bid 42% increase. That will paralyze us if that happens, because many people work at the hospital. They cover their spouse, they cover their family, and it's going to be more and more important that our employees have health insurance as we gear up for the health exchange and the ACOs. We're never going to be in affordable care. We're never going to be in kind of a home base where we have economy of scale. And so it's expensive to have health care in Alaska, and I don't think it's a surprise to anybody, but you have to have your emergency room open. You have to have a certain number of nurses on duty. You have to have housekeepers. You have to have cooks. You have to have everybody there for the patient that does come in. And so that makes it hard to be efficient. Our building is old. Part of our building was built, of course, in the early 60s. That's long-term care. Long-term care is the bread and butter of the hospital. Without long-term care, we would not have a hospital. And I say that over and over and over, and that's where we're at risk, because most of our long-term care patients are on Medicaid. And Medicare does not pay for long-term care coverage. So just to, you think, oh, why would it be Medicare? But, so most people have to spend down their assets and then apply to Medicaid. Right now, the state of Alaska has good Medicaid reimbursement, but as we're seeing the shift, many states have asked, in the nation of the 50 states, 37 have increased Medicaid waivers to increase the number of percentage of poverty that you have to apply, to be at. Alaska has not done that because Medicaid is basically a state and federal funded, and so it doesn't really do any good for the feds to say they'll pay their share if the state can't come up with their share. And of course, Alaska, as you know, this legislative session has not been on healthcare, it's been on oil and gas.
Yeah.
So I don't see Governor Parnell. I had a meeting with him and some other representatives from our hospital association. I think he's very prudent in probably having a wait and see approach to Medicaid expansion. If that did expand, we may see maybe 8 to 10% more of perhaps our unfunded patients get funded. So we also have probably 8 to 10% of our patients that are either on a charity self-pay and don't pay. So again, when you have a hospital, you have to keep it open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You have to have staff for the what ifs. And so, I would say, you know, in a nutshell, we're probably holding our own on operations. We're not getting ahead. I would say every year we're getting a little bit behind because we're having more and more unfunded mandates by federal regulations just to keep current. And our population in Petersburg is not growing, so there's a limited number of patients. And to have a lifestyle for our physicians that they'll want to stay here, we've pretty much determined that it's 4, so that they can actually have a life and we can recruit and retain. Right now we do have a vacancy. Dr. Hulabeck is leaving in October, and I've been working very diligently with other hospitals and communities in Alaska and in the nation, and we're in a shortage right now for Alaska, definitely for primary care. And the new trend for physicians in primary care is to do clinic only or hospitalist. We don't have the volume for a hospitalist program, so we're at a very delicate position of being able to recruit and then retain. And so that's, I would see that is a problem. So at some point, you know, I mean, you know, it's a long-term strategic plan of what does a community want, you know, and then of course I worked in, just came from California before here, and then Fairbanks before that, but you know, I got a email today, and across the country, 9 hospitals have closed within the last quarter across the country. So it's a hard time. It's a hard time in healthcare right now with healthcare reform, and of course the mantra is we want to, you know, reduce healthcare costs. We all want to, because we all pay for healthcare insurance. At the same time, I think it's just a fact of life that we're not as efficient, I think, as we could be if we were in a big city, and it's just not going to be that way. So, if that maybe leads you to some questions, then that would.
Your health insurance, we were notified that our health insurance was going to raise 40% too. We just found out it's actually just raising 12%. But made me wonder for us, and we have Primera too, like I believe you guys do
and
too.
so it may not be that much, but we don't
Hopefully,
know.
yeah, it all depends on the pool. Right, I was just wondering if the employees that cover dependents with health insurance, do they pay a portion of
Yes.
that? Yeah,
And so
like
do
our
the
city
individuals.
employees.
So do the individual. The individuals do as of a year ago.
10%.
2 years ago it went into effect. So last year was the first year that they did, and it's 10%.
Yeah, we're talking about.
So you ended up at 12%,
2050.
Judy, is that what you, for the health insurance increase?
We were just notified a week ago that they think it's going to be.
And the school was just here before you, and they had
6.
they were expecting a big number too, and it went to 6%. So they were happy about that.
Liz, do you want to talk a little bit about the trends in like with Peace Health in Ketchikan, Wrangell?
Right. So as I said, many hospitals throughout the nation are either closing or merging or having affiliations with other large systems, and I think it's something that you know, probably within the next 5 to 10 years, Petersburg Medical Center will have to consider, unless there's some other funding coming in. And as you probably know, most municipal facilities do receive some tax from their city. And I say that rather strongly for the fact that small towns realize how important it is to have a hospital. If you don't have a hospital, and I've seen this firsthand, if you don't have a hospital, your town kind of dries up, because anybody with a chronic condition, even something like diabetes, maybe live here. So that is a factor, and I just hope that we kind of maybe go back to that conversation at some point. But there are hospitals that do affiliate, merge, get bought out, get leased. There's a million different arrangements with other healthcare systems. The two, of course, in Alaska that would even maybe be something to consider would be Peace Health in Ketchikan, and then the Providence system. Well, I came from a very large healthcare system, and you know, have spoken with Peace Health, but the issue is that they don't come in and say, well, we'll build you a new hospital. They don't promise you your capital. Your capital still comes out of operations, and then you give a share of your net profits or gross income to the system to manage you. And then you still pay, and Peace Health is, you still pay then additional for, like, if I needed to call the attorney or I needed IT support, then you still pay over and above. And so Peace Health is paying about 4%, but then they still pay an additional amount of money for other things. Other hospitals, we paid about 22% in Susanville, California, but then we didn't pay for anything else. So it probably works out to be about 1/5 of your gross revenue or your net. It just depends what kind of contract you have, then goes to the system. And you do get support. I mean, you get, maybe your payroll goes through that, and you do get other things. The issue for anybody to look at us, to even to see if they're interested in us, to woo us or court us, is that you have to be profitable. You have to be somebody that someone wants. And so if you have an old facility and you don't have a lot of money, you know, sometimes companies will come in and buy you out, wholly designed to be that you're feeding that big system, you know. But the other issue for us is being in PERS. No one really wants us because they don't have PERS.
It's a big liability.
And you know, our labor cost is 68 to 70% of our operations, and it should be for you know. And I come from a hospital. We were in the top 25 in the nation financially. It should be 38 to 40%. And even a hospital is very, very labor intensive. Very, as you know, it's very high tech, but very high touch. And so that's going to be a problem. So I don't really have a good solution, but that's kind of.
Well, I would add, I think the good discussion for the assembly and for the hospital board to have down the road, not today, obviously, but is in the event, if it should happen, that a partnership should happen or a merging of sorts with likely would be Peace Health, we would need to be looked at as something that they'd want to be involved with. One part of that would be municipal support, which would be, obviously that's what I'm saying about talk about down the road. First of all, I'd say thank you very much for putting the hospital on the capital
list. Yes,
request list. That's a very helpful thing, and that helps back us up when we do lobbying in Juneau for capital money. And as Liz was saying, operations-wise, the hospital is doing very well. It's managed well. And for the town of this size, it is doing well. But that's all it's doing. There's no growth potential because the capital budget can't come out of operations. And so that's why we are always looking for state funds or foundation funds, which right now are not happening.
How many people are employed at the hospital?
About 90?
109 are on the books.
So that's a chunk of jobs that walks out the door if the hospital closes.
Well,
Right.
and they're
It's
Well,
not gonna
and,
close.
geez, what it would do to everybody if there was no hospital here.
It's not gonna close.
But likely, so again, like say if there was a 1% sales tax, that would be on, you know, I mean, because there are various different examples out there. And again, that's for a different discussion someday.
Just to, I mean, because it's still relatively fresh in my mind, I was converting property tax rates where I was previous to Petersburg to
Right.
a mill rate.
Right.
You know, give you an example, and we had a rural local hospital, very similar to what we have here.
Mm-hmm.
The equivalent mill rate that was attached to the hospital would have been 1.2, just
In property tax.
just to the hospital.
Right.
The school was 14.9, the county was 3.0, and the city was 7.9. That gives you some idea. I mean, what's our total mill rate here? Including debt service?
Roughly 11.
Yeah, I mean, it gives you some idea of
Exactly.
I mean, and that's the tough part, because while that's very common down south, I don't get the impression it's real common up here.
No, it's not. And then also
and I don't
the
know, I mean, that's just not. I mean,
right, and then also the
how do you make it
150
palatable?
after 150 is, you know, that's forgiven if you're at a certain age. So that's
Yeah,
also
that age is,
exactly
those numbers are
that's
growing
also
and
money
growing.
that's not.
So
Those are the people that need the hospital.
It's I mean, that's
Right.
those are real numbers. You could go
Right.
check any.
But I mean,
hospital.
and that's why I'd say,
Might be a reason why the
I know you guys have
Mm-hmm.
your budget pretty much set. It appears that I'm aware of, and I know the hospital's not involved now, and we're not here to talk about that today. But I do think that that's a good conversation to have, and obviously the community has to be a big part of it, and the community has to be a big part of it if the hospital were to ever consider a partnership or a merging with another health organization. But it would be the wish of the hospital board and the administration that we continue to have a thriving service here, which we do. We provide for the size of this community. There is an incredible amount of service that's available in that building. And as Liz was saying, we can't compete with Seattle. There's no way. It's impossible. You know, when you do 3 procedures versus 800. You know, but it's down the street. That's the benefit. And so I think there's a good discussion to be had down the road.
How soon do we have to have that discussion, Tom?
I would say within the year. That's my opinion.
I'm gonna ask what you had said you don't really have a cushion. What, do you have a number figure in mind that would provide a comfortable cushion for maintenance and upgrades? And
Well, for example, there's no, most businesses and all hospitals have a deferred maintenance plan. So like every 6 years you repaint, every 6 years you get new carpet, so that your patients have a nice place and you have it all on a list. But we've been doing capital as we can afford it, or as we've gotten grants. So again, thank you very much for putting us on the list. We did not make the cut, of course, for our long-term care remodel. That's 1.4, probably 1.5 million. Yet we have to do that, and the reason is because, again, and I'll be very honest, long-term care keeps that hospital going. We lose money on the clinic, but everybody needs to see the doctor at the clinic. So you have to have a long-term care unit that's competitive enough, because we're recruiting people from Juneau and Haynes. And so you as a daughter, maybe of a mom that might need to go there, you want to see that it's aesthetically pleasing and clean and nice. So we are gonna go ahead with that. We have to get a new electronic medical record system to meet meaningful use. The government, we get some money back, about half the money back, but that's $700,000 that we have to pay for. So in order to do that, and we're gonna have to get a loan this year. So I would say we have no money in margin to pay for anything big. So does that?
Liz,
sorry.
Mr. Tom, I mean, if I say this incorrectly, correct me. Dude, what I hear say is that, you know, we could go to the voters potentially and say, we'd like to bond for 1.4 million to do renovations on the long-term care. That's one challenge. The second part of the challenge, though, is you gotta pay the bond payment.
Exactly.
And
the second part of it is, where do you support it? I mean, do you support it as
Well, 'cause
sales
it ends up
tax,
being
property
both. I mean,
tax?
in other
It
words,
is, it's
You
two-pronged.
could get a bond passed that said, where the voters approve it, but then you're also still talking about some form of
Yes.
operational funding that says.
Yes,
to pay
and
the bond.
designated. And, yeah, that's,
And the other part of that, Steve, is that you're talking about you're putting Band-Aids on a very old hospital. You know, and the wisdom of how much money you wanna put back into that old hospital versus look someplace else and a facility that's gonna meet all these requirements that are coming down the road into the future.
Well, and it's a community that's spoken pretty loudly about new buildings. Being don't build new buildings.
Yep.
Well, the remodel is actually, we're calling it a facelift, because if we call it a remodel, it goes into the infrastructure, which will not meet code. So, and it's designed for 5, 10 years. It doesn't go into the heating and
It's lipstick.
plumbing.
And some of the things we've talked about is, what is it? Totem Arms. You know, across the street. I mean, how do we build an annex as it would be to, you know, to the existing hospital? But there's a couple opportunities there, but they're all.
well, we've actually had an architect look at some available properties nearby, but, and it was not a big enough footprint.
Not adequate.
What we've been thinking is to, as we were saying, is, you know, what pays the bill is long-term care, and if we could be marketed as sort of a destination for long-term care, it would be helpful. And so put the investment in there, and then you can pay for the whole operation. But if you were to do an annex, you know, or property adjacent to the current footprint, then the other question would be someday down the road would be, should we block off the road?
Joy Jansen, bridge, she always wanted
Well,
a bridge
I always wanted
over.
a sky bridge. I
Yeah.
would love to have
Talked
that.
about that.
Yeah.
I like sky bridges. I'm from Minnesota.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
Is
that
your-
would be another thing.
Is
which
your
I-
long-term care staying full?
Yes.
Okay,
It
that's
is.
a
Well,
good
we
thing.
had 2 deaths, but over this, since I came, you know, it's been our goal that it's been full, and it's been full.
Cause I know that makes a
Yeah.
huge
We have
difference.
15 long-term care beds, and we've had 15 occupancy the whole last year. So
Great,
we've kept them all full.
that really helps.
Yeah.
That's a similar trend we're seeing in Mountain View Manor. I mean, our
Yeah.
assisted living we got a waiting list far
Right.
larger than we have capacity for.
Right.
Where 3 years ago, we were talking about shutting her down.
Right. Exactly.
So. it's-
And then you have to look at the demographics of those waiting lists. Are they coming from Petersburg? Are they coming from other locations? And our population in Petersburg, maybe it's just because I'm getting older, but it seems like it's getting older. you know,
Oh,
but-
it's getting older.
I think we're all getting older.
I think so.
I'm pretty sure. That's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
So once this current roof project is done, will that be it? Will all of the roof have been replaced, or is there still
Well, we have the phase
Phase-
1 and the phase 2.
Yeah.
that you're, okay, is there a phase?
This doesn't, there's a
Will there
phase
be a
3,
phase
but it's
3?
over the clinic, and that's a relatively new
Oh, okay.
Right.
That's what
structure,
I was
and we've
wondering.
been planning
It would
for
be-
that for many years.
It
Okay.
should be it for the
Great.
roof. Right. Right.
Phase 1 and 2 will complete the roof on the facility.
Yes.
This is plastic.
I know,
That's-
but well, but I mean, I would repeat again. Thanks. It really does help to have the hospitals project on
Oh, yeah.
the capital list.
The worrisome thing, and some of the assembly members heard it at the other meetings, is that we're concerned about future capital spending by the state not
Yeah.
being at the
Yeah,
at
they're
the level.
cutting too.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
It's, you know, I'm sure the assembly will continue to put hospital projects projects on there, but we're already worried about anything, or
Right.
very few funding opportunities down the road.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's gonna get tougher, unfortunately.
Well, and for us, at least I've only been down to this conference once, but every time I listen to in my mind, back to not knowing what the new healthcare system is gonna bring us is the biggest worry. Even the federal people that talk down there can't tell you what's gonna happen,
Nobody knows.
except it's gonna cost you more.
Well, and although, I had our insurance agent break it out by saying, okay, because we heard that too. All right, what's the actual component of the Healthcare Act? It was inconsequential. I mean, there was the costs that were there,
They're going up
nothing.
anyway.
That, I mean, the reason ours are going up so much was because of our loss exposure. And, but I mean, that's not the whole story, but I mean, but that's I think the bigger problem is gonna be, what do they require you to do paperwork wise, maybe more than anything.
Right.
Well, the hope, I think, Steve, through this requirement for electronic medical records is that, once this stuff all becomes digitized, it can all be organized and whatever, but.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Funding is gonna be more of an issue, especially if we're involved in Washington legislature, the oil tax bill, and
Yeah.
even if that's overturned, and if the redistricting changes and we get Senator Stedman back, I've had conversations with Stedman in the past, it was you send out a capital projects list, you send in your top 10 and you send everything else, and if there's money in the pool for one of those 20, 30 items, you'll do it. Recently had a conversation with him, he said now he's gonna be telling his districts that just send me 2 or 3 projects.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yes.
Because that's
Yeah.
just the state of the affairs and
Right.
state funding, so
Same thing.
it's gonna be a change.
Well, thank you. It's a good opportunity.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Well, I have one question about accounts receivable. I've just heard talk around town, people are getting their bills now from last summer. Is that an issue with your system, or?
Yes.
I mean, it must hurt you financially
Yes.
to wait 9 months for payment, so.
We've had a lot of problems, and Leah, do you wanna take that one?
Well, I think the last 3 months now, we've kinda got it in the start of an order, but we aren't near where we need to be. Yeah, we've got short staff last year, the business manager left, all that hurt. Now we do have a new business office manager, and she does have good experience and I think has the plan that will work. It just takes time to put it all in place and get the old receivables collected on.
Playing catch up now.
Yeah, no.
There's
the
been a
plan
lot.
is
There's
to-
been a lot of turnover in that
In
office.
the office. Oh, that hurts.
So is the plan to start billing monthly then?
Right, and we're on that track right now.
Because it's complex, the billing.
Yeah,
and,
with insurance.
Right, and then with the turnover, it's been difficult.
I always said the most important person in the hospital is the one who codes those charges. Because nothing else happens if she doesn't code or he doesn't code that right. So,
right.
yeah.
Actually, I think it gets worse than that. I know, from stuff that we have had done here in the last couple of years. If it goes down to the insurance company and it's coded improperly, then your accounts receivable starts backing up and backing up. By the time you get it resolved, because the digital or the phone call or whatever it takes, I mean, it's,
Yep. It's so complicated.
yeah.
So.
Oh, I have one other question. Dr. Gross, are you anticipating that that's going to help increase revenues?
Well, we definitely hope so. He's here today, and it is he closed his practice in Juneau. So, we have a 1-year contract with him, and to kind of see how he likes it and how it works. And, but he plans to do at least 6 clinics, this year. And then, he'll be here quite a bit in the summer, and when he's here in the summer, he'll come in if, if somebody breaks their bones and he's here. been looking at, maybe having a clinic in Wrangell. But what happens now is because he becomes an employee of the hospital, is that we get the billables. So he gets a salary and we get to bill. So, that's, definitely a plus, and for an orthopedic surgeon, that's very, very nice. So, he loves Petersburg and he wants to be here, and I just saw his truck and it's full of stuff and.
They did build a home here.
Oh, yeah, we kayak by it all the
He
time.
said he bought the cabin next to it too.
Oh, really?
For the kids.
Yep, for a guest house.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's,
very
it's a
Right
small
now
house.
it's gonna be stored with all his furniture, and, so he's really excited
Good.
and really delighted to be here, and so he'll be part of the regular clinic. So he won't be in the visiting clinic anymore.
He's ambitious. I saw him this morning when I was up there to,
Oh, yeah?
and, told him my knee hurt. He said, well, we'll fix it tomorrow.
Yeah?
I go, well.
Well, I know he's doing surgery tomorrow.
Well, time to think about how to get out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's not the time for a repair.
Okay.
Anything else we can answer? Well, and again, and like Tom said, thank you so much for thinking of the hospital and the capital request, and it's really wonderful to have a good rapport with you and to work with you, and, you know, I invite you to call me or stop up if you have any questions or anything I can help you with, or a billing question or anything, just feel free to stop by and have a cup of coffee sometime.
Or come to a board meeting.
Yeah,
If we need another meeting.
I was thinking, I need more
Exactly.
meetings in my life.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Sorry, I missed part of it.
Did you get my email?
Watch out.
You slipped by.
So Tom, real quick, but if he does, clinic up here, you gonna have, bring in an anesthesiologist in to?
Yeah, yeah.
Anything from you.
Does he still use Betsy? Or for scrubs?
Might be, yeah.
Did
Is that his
he?
wife?
Was he? No.
Had been,
For
no,
now.
she, and she won't be, Monica won't be.
No, his wife's a pediatrician.
Right, she won't be, she will not be practicing here.
No.
So is it Compass Theater time?
But will she be living here?
Yeah.
She'll be living here.
Yeah, cause she's
won't
kind
be
of
practicing.
part-time
Okay.
pediatrician.
She's keeping her position in June.
Well, that's worse than.
Poor Ann, you've had to wait through the whole thing.
I just wanted you here for the
Let's see, where is the theater here?
On the bottom.
Oh, I messed them all up.
We
Nothing up. I've been digging through these.
Free patients.
May still be on the bottom though.
Yeah, exactly.
Here it is.
Yeah,
Over there.
right,
Sucking their clients over here.
that would work.
So, Compass Theater, they had asked in their request for $30,000. We put in $15,000, and Dave and Ann came to talk about what they need. So,
Okay, well, bottom line, well, let's see, Ann is the manager of the theater, I'm on the board, presently, currently vice president. President Sid Bacon is working today over at Carl Knight, so couldn't come. Bottom line is we're 24,000 short at this point. We have a goal of raising 65,000, we have 41,000 raised as our fundraising goal. And so we are, we're presently looking to the city for part of this. We have grants in the process through the Rasmussen Foundation with, in connection with the Arts Council, and also a grant that we're filing with First Bank that could bring in some more funds also. So that said, Compass, as you know, we've been in the theater almost 15 years now. Originally started as a grant from the Department of Education, Compass grant in Alaska. And it is the only grantee out of 13, I believe, that is still operating. There were all kinds of different projects that were granted funds, and Petersburg was the only theater. We do a lot of student showings, special showings, the theater equipment's used for Forest Service. We have our military appreciation night once a month that we let the military folks in. We also do special showings for PFI and families where they want to have a private showing. Looking back at 2012, we've had close to 7,000 viewers individually come into the theater for. So it's a widely used community event, a community venue. Shown 52 different films roughly this year. We're forced to do this because of the sunset of the 35mm film that's happening. Already you may have, if you've seen a movie recently, the quality of the 35mm films that we're able to get is less than satisfactory. And that celluloid, as it's called, is very very hard to come by. It's expensive to produce. The studios are producing less and less prints of every movie that they have. They're all going to digital, and this has been the biggest thing that's happened to movie theaters since the talkies. So as far as benefits, we're probably going to be able to have more first-run movies and get them sooner. There'll be more hard disks to go around. Also less cost. The freight to send the hard disk to us will be less than the cost of a 50-pound box of film, in addition to having to return it. And in the future, we're looking at internet delivery. That might be a possibility that would keep that cost down too. I'm sure Ann has some things to throw in here too.
Dave did mention some of the groups that we have worked with, and we've also done special showings with long-term care, the Teen Library Board, the Arts Council, Midcoff Dance Troupe, KFSK. Ski Club. The funds we have raised so far, approximately $33,000 has come from local company donations, or the school donated $5,000. The culinary arts class and ASB students did the little cakes and raised $1,500. Elementary families contributed like $913 at a reading night, which Partners in Education matched another $1,000 to that. So it's been a wide variety of support. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to take advantage of more grants because of our nonprofit status, which is the C4 part of it. We did not ask for that at all. But I want to stress that I really don't feel we're your average, just, people say you're a movie theater. We're just so much more because of the way we work with the community.
And the kids.
Mm-hmm. We've had some, a couple special needs employees that we're able to offer them some experience in working. And they may not have job opportunities, but I don't know if you have teenagers around too, finding a place to work other than a boat in town. Just a place to learn how to do customer service or run a cash register is very limited here.
Well, and good activities for teens to do, to go to a movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A good portion of our clientele is the students.
Our minutes require that we employ kids, and there can be no adult employees other than the management. We have a volunteer board that serves as mentors for the kids, and at our monthly board meetings, the kids are urged to participate and run the meeting, and so they learn a lot about business as part of their operation, as part of the operation. Yeah.
Is that a requirement that they show up to those meetings, Dave? Or is it just, you just suggest that they show up?
They're
And
elected,
what kind of participation
they're
do you
elected
get?
as part of it, and they're volunteers at the board meetings too. So, yeah, they do come. And so we have a volunteer, we have a student president and also an adult president of the board and down the line.
So you're short $24,000 to meet the needs, is that what you're
Yes, 24,000 at this point.
So have you guys worked up on what do you think your savings are gonna be, if we go to digital versus, say like?
Well, it's difficult. I've been trying to get we already get a discount on our freight. Freight for a movie is typically about $250 UPS. We pay $125 on one way. We estimate probably about 50% in freight. We paid in 2012 $2,400 in freight. So we expect that to drop to about half. Certainly more so if we're able to get digital delivery of films. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of driving force in that now because GPS is so cheap to run to theaters in the lower 48. You can drop a UPS, ground shipment, for $10, $12, get them a hard disk in the lower 48, and our freight's much higher than that. Occasionally, they made an error in our freight bill and charged us $25 in each direction instead of the $125.
Are you only allowed
Hey, there
to
goes
keep
the
things
plane.
for a certain period of time?
I'm sorry?
Are you only allowed to keep films for a certain period of time?
Well,
I mean, would you save if you ordered, say, 5 weeks worth of films at one time?
No, they won't send them to us like that.
That's how I wondered.
Yeah, there's, especially prints at this point, they're too hard to come by, and they, Ann can tell you about, when we're finished with the film, they've already scheduled a pickup for the next day.
Yep, it comes off the day we finish it, and they pick it up at the school probably Monday or Tuesday, and it's gone.
There'll be additional savings too in actually putting together the film. How much time do you think we spend per film now?
For film, we have a special film rate. The students only are paid like $5.35 because we're a nonprofit.
Yeah.
This film person gets paid a little bit more, so I anticipate that we may not need the film person, but we spend probably 4 hours a week additional having to splice all the reels together and then take them off. And if you were at the movie last week, our film person spliced them in the wrong order. So we got to see, this is Friday night, so we got to view it the movie out of sequence. And we were like, that wouldn't be an issue if we had the digital, because obviously there's no splicing.
So what does the projectionist then make for doing that time? Is
I
it
think
like $6,
they
$7?
make $7 something.
$7. So you're looking at maybe $30 a week savings.
Yeah,
Times
in
52.
that.
I'm trying to justify, how many years is it gonna take to pay off a $24,000 loan, or where you make the money back, And so are you gonna make it back before the machine has to be replaced? What do they think the lifespan is on that?
We're still running. How old is the machine?
It's our original machine, 15 years. The technology is new. The only thing that needs to be replaced in it regularly is a bulb. They can be $400, but with our schedule of running it, we'll probably get a couple of years on a bulb and a projector like that.
And is there any? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just say, so is there any luck on trying to find a refurbished one? I noticed in your notes here that you guys were talking about the possibility of that being a little lower.
There's not really. The refurbished machines that we're seeing are for larger venues, and because of their lenses, and they don't work in our size venue. And they're generally for larger cineplexes. Another thing that's going, kind of against us is that you could get software to run the software that we have to buy to run one cineplex. You can run 15 movies on it too if you wanted to. So, having one theater or only one screen is a drawback for us.
Is this technology going to get cheaper as it gets more widespread? Or do you think it's going to always remain this high?
I think it's always going to be similar in cost to have an initial investment like this for the theater. We've already seen some changes in projectors and equipment for smaller venues since since the beginning of last year when theaters started wholeheartedly to move to this digital upgrade. It's probably where we're going to see the savings in it is this digital delivery, and not having to deal with it. But the studios are worried about security in delivering movies digitally. I don't know why. You get a file, you have to have a passcode to get into it that they email you. That's separate from the hard disk. The hard disk, you can't do anything with the file on it until you get the passcode for it to release it. And then you're limited to the number of times that you can show it because of that passcode and your prior schedule.
Well, I just want to commend you folks. When I was first contacted about it, I think you were $20,000 or $30,000 down from where you are now, and I'm pretty impressed with how much money you've been able to raise. But I wanted to ask how far you are in the Rasmussen grant application and when you think that's going to be submitted, because I know the kids were working on that.
Yeah, that's we've had some delays in that because to get the kids, especially this time of the year.
Oh yeah.
We fully employ kids that are involved in a lot of activities, and that's part of the theaters because we don't pay very much.
Yeah.
Is the flexibility. So we're going to have some upcoming sessions where they're going to really hit that hard, and we've been focusing on the First Bank grant.
Sure.
A lot also.
So what would be the potential from that grant? Do you know?
From First Bank, up to 10,000.
Okay.
How long can you continue with the equipment you have?
We probably won't be able to get movies by the end of this year in 35 millimeter format.
They haven't given us an exact date of when they're going to stop production. The faster theaters convert, the quicker they're gonna stop. And already, we work through a booking agent who approaches studios and lines up, and she'll call me back and if I request a movie, and she'll say that she can't get a print of that film until such and such a date, or so print availability, we're already seeing that a little bit.
When our costs have increased too, our minimums, sometimes we get movies from studios and we have to pay a percentage of our gate, and that can go anywhere from 30% to 65% of the money that we take in goes to the studios, depending upon how soon how early of a release the movie is. And already we've seen a penalty because we have to get a print. Warner Brothers, as an example, their revenue before they will send us a movie, we have to guarantee so much revenue, and that guarantee now has gone up from $250 to $400 for a Warner Brothers film here. So they're actually penalizing smaller theaters like this, like Compass, because we haven't upgraded because of the cost of the.
So that'll go
print.
down after your digital.
Yeah, if we get digital, then we'll be back down to the normal,
that's
250
good.
range as a minimum, and that only happens on some prints or some movies.
So because I don't understand the technology entirely, I know when Heather Canick had put together the trailer for her film, she was able to show it on her computer. What is different about what the equipment that you are going to acquire?
Well, largely it's the projector, but in addition it's the software that allows you to take a hard disk and put it into your system, transfer that file to your projector, apply the code that allows you to show it, and then project it on the screen. One of the big differences in the projectors is the brightness of the image, and movies are not available in a format that you could just show on a DVD, like Heather's, for instance.
But would you be able to do something like that on your system as well?
We will be able to. Any any file that can come in and be shown on a computer will be able to show on the new projector.
Because I just gave Sue McCallum a disc that is the state has been digitizing their archives, which would allow us to bring some of those films down here and show them
Right.
too occasionally.
Yeah. So instead of using the projector that the LCD projector that's in the ceiling for the auditorium that the school uses and we've used for things like the ski club film, that kind of thing, we'll be able to broadcast those using an input into our new projector and into the theater sound system, rather than using the sound system for the auditorium.
Sounds like the new equipment would be a benefit for many reasons, you know, somebody was saying for the archive stuff from the state and
All kinds of things.
movies people put together. or
Well,
whatever.
even to encourage local filmmaking, not just Heather, but I mean, as a teen activity, that goes on in Juneau and people really get into it, and I'd love to facilitate those kinds of things.
Interestingly enough, the Castle Theater over in Wrangell is a city-run and sponsored organization, and the city over there just upgraded them to a digital projector. They're involved in the middle of that. It had a cost very similar to ours, $65,000.
So my other question was just to know, from ordering to installation and training people on how to use the system, what time frame is that?
Probably about 30 days.
So not too long.
Yeah, not too long. Yeah. It can happen pretty quickly.
Cool.
I think the equipment's available. One of the things you mentioned about grants, and we've gone the route of just kind of putting out grants and making them available. But it was brought up that because the students are involved, we want them to become involved with the grant process and how it's done and how grants are how you kind of put them together. And so that's one of the reasons why we haven't yet filed the First Bank grant and done a lot of work on the Compass grant or on the Rasmussen grant, because we want the kids to become involved and see what the process is to be able to write grants.
You think you're gonna have those finished and turned in time before before we make any decisions on the budget, or if we do as an assembly, support this sort of thing, would that prohibit you from even turning in a grant?
The First Bank grant, I believe, will be ready to submit by next week, and if I'm reinterpreting their guidelines properly, I believe they decide within a month. And there is an area of that grant where we do break down what funds we do have.
I was gonna say, I mean, a lot of foundation and company grants like that, they love to be the last one in.
Yep.
They love to
Well,
find
pretty darn
finishing the
close.
project. So, I mean, it's kind of they like to be the hero. I don't know what other way to describe it, but so I mean, our budget now includes the 15,000.
So that would
That
leave
gets it.
9,000 on the table.
Yeah, I mean that makes it awful close.
So with our 15, that would leave you 9 short?
Yeah.
And you have 2 grants pending, so.
And our grant process now, the borough is 3 readings, so to pass the budget, correct?
Yeah.
Right. This won't be
May
official
6th.
until the 3rd.
First one in June will be the 3rd and final reading.
Yeah.
Maybe don't tell them anything about this, just
Well, no,
put
that
your
might-
grants in.
Maybe that might be just in time for First Bank to be the hero.
No, I think it is beneficial to show the city support for the borough.
But maybe not this much.
Can
Let them put in the 10 and the whatever Rasmussen.
be funded, for instance, through the borough, and then if they still apply for grants, I've never found a grant, I don't know about. But if you get grant money, can that repay the borough to get the process moving forward?
What
Just
if we,
a thought. I
what
mean,
if
I
we
don't
went
know.
through like PEDC or something as kind of a loan? Does that work?
Why can't
Yes,
PEDC
it can be done.
something like
I mean,
that?
well, I mean, be careful. I'm on the PEDC board.
Okay, well, let maybe
Okay.
Jody to answer that question.
Yeah.
That was actually directed at Jody.
Okay, sorry.
Could they borrow money from PEDC and then get their grants and pay them back? Or would this have to come right out of our general fund?
This would need to come right out of our general fund. What could happen though, you approve the $15,000 in the budget, we don't
You don't have to
necessarily have
spend
to
it all.
give it to
Right.
them.
And
Right.
And then
unless
we
you
wait
need
until
all of
they
it.
ask for it and
Yeah.
do it that way.
Yeah, I'd use the grants first and then.
You
Yeah.
bet.
Right,
We'd be
exactly.
the heroes.
Yeah, I'd rather see it,
We put in the
Well-
last $10.
Yeah.
yeah, and if you,
And
if
we've-
it is in the
Then we
budget,
get the last one.
it is in the budget, we get other funds, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you know, yeah, there's no need to write us a check.
Well, and Rasmussen knows about this and has been pretty encouraging about it. Not, they haven't talked about a specific dollar amount, but they are aware that this project is out
It's a
there.
worthy cause.
Yeah, and with the amount of community support we have, it's right up.
And you're down to the small enough dollar amount that a lot of these foundations and stuff, that's a small amount of money. I mean, it's easy for them to fit it in.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, and they
decide
have
want
to give
fund
money.
it.
They have to spend money.
Yeah.
So.
But anyway, I mean, again, just for the Assembly's benefit, what's in the current budget that's been presented to you is $15,000 for the Compass Theater. Anything more than that, and Jody and I have to go back to work, anything less than that, it's up to you guys.
Okay.
Well, and this is a one-time request too.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, but, and this is a balanced budget then.
It is at this point.
At the moment.
If you change things, that could change.
Okay, I just clarify that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Try to be careful how I answer those kind of questions. Balance.
So,
Now.
KMSK.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've been, sending out letters and had a lot of community support and stuff.
I just,
Yeah.
yeah, if you have any questions, again, I guess I just reiterate the funds are used primarily to help offset our news coverage in personnel costs. You know, we have 2 reporters, and I'd really like to use them as reporters and not have to spend 3 hours of their day doing the morning news. So I like to have somebody else on staff for that. So that's basically what this is it really allows some room in my budget. The budget is already very tight. It is every year. I'm going through my budget now. What I gave you was a proposal at that time. That's already changed a little bit.
Oh, really? It was 8,000, which is what we put in the budget.
Oh, no,
Oh.
that I'm not changing. I'm
Oh,
talking
your-
about my budget.
Oh, your
No,
budget.
I see that you put in 8, which I requested, so I say thank you. I'm just letting you know that the overall budget has changed a little bit for the, not in the good way. Yeah, KFSK's budget.
Well, we
Due
probably
to sequestration.
benefit the most from those news reporters and the PSAs, so. thank
Well,
you
and I mean,
also.
it's just, I really do think for the bang for the buck, it's a great service. And,
They do a great
and
job.
They do, and I think everybody up there does, so.
Well, even more critical now that we're a borough.
So I
Yeah.
really,
point.
appreciate the support.
Okay. Thank you.
So how much, what's changing on your budget, Tom? Are we gonna hear about it during the
Sequestration, the federal,
Oh, yeah.
grant is, coming in and hitting me, harder than I anticipated.
How much do you think you're gonna be short?
We're losing about 12,000 from what I had put down. You know, and it's already, you know, in a $450,000 budget. When I've got a bottom line under $10,000, every dollar is important, and so it's tight. So we'll end up. What it'll affect is the trend has been for the last 5 years that we are seeking more local support for our budget than than we have in the past. As the budget I presented as well, the state dollars and the federal dollars continue to go down. It's not a good trend. However, the good trend is that it was always something that our board had as a goal. The majority of our operating budget is now local money. It was never that way for years and years, and now we're there. because the others have been dwindling, and we're still balancing out every year, so it's a good thing. And when it comes to the capital needs that we have, I've been pretty successful on that for the past few years. So far, the building is in solid shape.
Yeah,
it's been fixed up nicely, and we don't have any debt, which is great. So we're in good shape, and I really appreciate the the municipal support.
Well, be sure and mention in your fundraiser that because of the sequester. The reason I asked you is because we'll probably, I'll make it public now. I'll just increase my, giving this year, but I just need to know why,
Oh,
why,
yeah, no,
so just be sure
I
and add
definitely
the
will.
fact
I
that
mean,
the
and
federal
we are going to be
sequester,
doing,
cut your funding, so.
yeah, and we are going to be
People
doing
get
more
you.
small events, fundraisers to make up for it, because, I mean, we know we serve a small population, and there's only a certain point.
And you gotta keep Mindy busy.
She gets in trouble.
So,
I was gonna say, she's got ideas.
but no, I really appreciate the support. So it's great. We're happy to do what we do.
Yeah, glad you do it.
Well, and especially important now that we've only got one station in town.
Yeah,
Even more so.
yeah. I think that's really unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
So, thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Tom.
Jody.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So what are we left with, Mountain View?
Food service.
And here they are.
On time.
What is
Right on time.
I didn't think everyone would show up,
It will
actually.
make me hurt someone.
I didn't remember that I had two hats on. I thought Sandy and Jeannie were coming today, but Auntie Jeannie's a bailiff over at the
Oh, right.
So I remembered she said, if I need check signed, will you go sign them? But I don't remember her saying
Which I
come
saw
to
your
the
wife
meeting.
at the other day.
Yeah.
She
And
only kept
she
saying,
announced to everyone.
are you done?
I don't-
Are you done?
I don't
I'm
listen
like, yeah,
to
I'm
the
done.
radio much. And everyone just.
She told me about that.
What'd she say?
She didn't listen.
That she doesn't
Not a
listen to
good
the
plug for
radio.
you.
Nice.
I know.
They asked her
I've
if
heard
they
her
heard
say
about
that too.
I know.
I don't know what he's doing up there.
It stresses her out. Apparently. I don't know why.
That's funny.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Tom.
We are extremely happy, again, to only request the basic grant of $15,000 and no supplemental. We have a cook that knows how to shop sales and make food dollars stretch, and for the first time in a long time, we have a little savings account.
Ooh.
And we employees don't have to dip, or we volunteers don't have to dip into our checkbooks to pay the employees like we did several years ago. And we haven't had to have fundraisers. We've just been able to treat it like a business and go forward. Diane Marsh is our cook, and she is amazing.
She
Right
cooks
now.
from scratch too.
Yeah, she's a scratch cooker. Things are not open from cans.
And how
it's
much?
healthy cooking.
How much do you charge a meal now?
It's $5 for in the dining room, $6 delivered.
I added up your costs, and it comes to $22 per meal. For a year. So.
We get city supplemental and state and federal to do that.
Is the sequester gonna hit you guys too?
Not that we're aware of. We're pretty small potatoes in the big scheme of things.
I did hear that they
Yeah,
were
good
talking
times.
about Meals on Wheels.
Yep.
We're not a
But you're
Meals
not
on Wheels
considered
program.
that, okay.
No, we're a nutrition program. It's a different little thing.
Oh,
We do provide 14 meals 3 times a week down to the assisted living end too. In addition to the deliveries we make, around 6 per time we cook, and then about 16 to 18 in the dining room.
And you provide 3 jobs, 3 part-time jobs?
3 jobs, actually 2 mostly. Rudy covers as the van driver and the sous chef, dishwasher guy, and then the cook, who normally is Diane Marsh, but she's on medical right now, so Darnell and Mike are kind of switching.
He's doing a really good job too.
Yeah. And we've done a lot of cost cutting, and we've cleaned things out, and we're using things up, and we're encouraging the use of fresh. And of course, the community's been wonderful to donate fish. And Coastal and Tonka Seafoods will process it and do it properly for us in the vacuum sealers.
You have to have it given to you that way, right?
Has
Yeah.
to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they'll do it for free. If you just bring them the fish, they'll do it for free, and then they put it on a shelf out at the Petersburg Cold Storage.
And then
Community Cold
Diane
Storage.
uses it, which is a huge thing, because a lot of times the cooks wouldn't use it, it was a lot of work.
Well, and
Oh.
also a lot of people
Very
thought
well
that when they gave it to the manor, that it was only for the manor, but we share with assisted living. If Becky wants it for her end, she's welcome to. And we don't say it's just ours, we're a team. And we've gotten a couple grants in the last few years and bought things like the big food warmer, what they can push, plug it in, keep the plates warm, take it down to assisted living, they stay warm, because you don't always have everybody ready to eat at 10 minutes to 5, you know. Someone might be sleeping, they might be having a program, and so in the past the food was getting cold, basically.
And that's a state thing too,
Yep.
it has to be hot.
It's gotta be warm.
All the way hot.
Nice and hot. We have a new program we're just instituting now where we're making door hangers. I've got them, you haven't seen them yet. But when they deliver the food and nobody answers their door, we're leaving a hanger on the door now, we're not leaving the food. Again, it has to be a certain temperature or it's bacteria grows and we can't do that anymore. So that's starting May 1st. Yes. And we've put in for one of the Petersburg Community Grants this year for a food sealer. I don't know if you knew that, food saver sealer, so that we can properly store our leftovers and things that we're going to reuse at the next meal. And we also are going to upgrade our dishes. They're pretty old. And a few other little things in the kitchen. Floor mats for fatigue when people are standing for several hours kind of in one area. We want to put anti-fatigue mats down and make it a little more comfortable for the employees. The grant where we received from the city through the state, where we got the food warmer, we also at that time upgraded some of the equipment, so that was really great.
Dishwasher, right?
Dishwasher was one of the items, yeah, and corrected the deficiencies on the stove and the stove hood. And as far as I know, the stove is working good.
Yeah.
It hasn't had any kerfluffles lately. No one's lost their eyebrows in the last 2 years that I know of. But the main thing is we can exist on what we've asked for and not come back for supplementals like we've done for so many years. The last 2 years have been great. We've been really working hard to get to that point. And at some point we may even lower our request because of our savings.
We need to put a sign up, Sheila and Sally's Restaurant, since we don't have sit-down
Sally's
restaurants. And
Sally's Diner.
Right now it's
imagine the
Darnell's.
trouble I had with bringing
Darnell's
3
Diner,
candidates
that
to
goes
town,
good.
trying to figure out how to feed them.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, on a Sunday.
Yeah.
I was
Yes.
gonna say, if it
Yeah.
had been any other time, I would have had them out to the house, but this is an unbelievable
But yeah,
weekend.
it's
No
I mean,
Yeah,
we
it
were
is.
jumping through hoops. I mean, we're feeding them, for those of you who didn't know, we're feeding them at the, which is what that morning is. We're feeding them Sunday night at the PFI Cookhouse. Patrick
That worked out, huh?
is gonna feed them for me.
Cool.
Kimmy.
But I mean, it was. I
They'll
was
have a
running
great
out of
dinner.
options.
I think
Yeah,
that's
no,
right.
it was,
Yeah.
Well, if they need something to do tonight, bingo, we'll feed them too. There's Spanish rice and.
Will you take one of these to your retail committee and ask them where 28,000 should come from for tax-free days? Please.
Good point.
Could you go,
Yeah. We
gotta
covered
Good
track
job.
my, track my
Good
Huda
job.
candidate
Really
down
good job.
at maybe
Yeah.
make it.
Thanks,
think this
sorry,
is
it was a
wonderful.
long
The-
week.
the plus is, you know,
It's all right, we got
the
through it
rest
all.
is
We're done,
done
we're done.
late.
No,
Well,
we did
it's-
have it earlier.
Yeah, there's
I don't
a-
know. I mean,
For
June
the
about
nonprofits, I've never been there before. It's very nice.
I don't know, but you learn about all kinds of
Instead of going in front of the council on the radio and being nervous.
Well, there is a public hearing